So if this is a gardening video, you're probably wondering why you're looking at a messy linen closet. Well, this here is the reason you're looking at a messy closet. It's because this is where I store all of my seeds. And a few years ago, I used to store my seeds in the laundry, but I actually lost a lot of seeds, and that was because there's a lot of humidity in the laundry. And yeah, I had a lot of seeds that got quite moldy. So that is why I store my seeds now in our hallway closet, in our linen closet. And ever since I've done that, they all have stored beautifully. Okay, so what I'm going to do today is a whole bunch of plantings. I'm going to grab a whole bunch of seeds out of here. We'll take them out onto the kitchen table and then we'll have a bit of a look at what we're going to plant. Now, that's a bit better. We've got a bit more light to work with in here and a bit more space as well. Now, you probably noticed I've got these big bags here, kind of where I've got a whole bunch of little bags inside of seeds. And these are all different seeds that I've collected. I don't know about you, but I'm a bit of a seed hoarder. Whenever I see kind of my plants going to seed, I collect a lot of them. And that's quite handy for trading for seeds and things like that as well. And it also just means I've always got a bit of an abundance of seeds to plant from. So a lot of these ones in the bags are things that I've kind of collected myself. So what I need to do is work out which ones we're going to plant out in our garden today. Actually, I might take you outside first of all, and I might actually have a bit of a look around just to see the areas that I have to plant in before I choose the seeds, because I actually think we're going to be a bit selective with our planting this year, and that's because we're a bit behind, but I'll tell you a bit more about that when we go outside. It is an absolutely magnificent day for planting out here, and I'm going to walk you down into the garden itself in a minute. But what you'll see when we get down there is that we're actually really behind with a lot of our planting this year and a lot of the prep as well. And that's because we actually headed away as a family over the school holidays. We went down to Tassie actually and spent a couple of lovely weeks kind of camping around Tassie. But the problem is that we wouldn't normally go away at this time of year. This is the time of year that normally I spend a lot of time preparing the garden. You know, this is when we get lots of weeds and things pop up as well. And that means that I am super duper behind. In fact, I'm actually going to put this video fairly live out to you guys. It's Sunday today. It should go live this Friday. So that means you're going to see what the garden's like right now and what we're planting now. And that means we're actually in the start of October. And I normally start all of my summer seeds down in the greenhouse in the very last week of winter. And that's because up here in the Dandenong Ranges, it's not a hugely long growing season for our summer vegetables. So I try and extend as much as possible. In fact, I was even doing a bit of experimentation last year where I actually got a lot of my seeds going really early, and I did that by using my fire inside, and I actually germinated them inside using the fire, which was pretty cool. But this year, I haven't even planted a summer seed in the ground yet, so I really need to get ahead with that. But I'm going to need to do a bit of prep down in the garden first. And as I said, we need to work out what areas I can even plant in, because I do have a lot of areas where I still have crops that haven't fully come to harvest yet from my winter crops. So things like down here, I've got my snow peas, I've got my garlic over here, which normally I don't harvest that until around Christmas anyway. I've got a few perennials that I'll show you in this area, and also some broad beans. So let's go down and have a bit of a closer look. This top garden bed here, which I'll kind of come back along here, I really haven't done anything with for a while. I've kind of kept a lot of the flowers that I had in here, just going mainly as a bit of a cover crop, and I'm not sure if we're going to plant in that this year. But what I do need to do is a lot of weeding, because obviously since I've been away, we've had a lot of weeds pop up. And normally what I do is I just kind of walk along and I pick weeds. And I just kind of pull them out as I move around in the garden. Having not done that for the last couple of weeks, there is actually quite a few weeds in the garden at the moment that I'm going to have to deal with. Also, interestingly, we're starting to see a few things just kind of naturalizing, like this little tomato here. Because I'm not going to formally plant out this bed, or at least that's the plan at the moment. I'll probably just leave those, and if we get a crop of them, we get a crop of them. If we don't, we don't. The reason I'm not going to plant in here is because we've got to do a little bit of work just to fix up a few things on our retaining wall area here. And I don't want to plant things and then kind of have that heartbreak of things getting damaged when we're building. So just this year, I think I'll just kind of let it go a little bit in this area here. All right, so let's have a look at this garden bed, and I might move around a bit because the sun's probably going to be in a terrible direction if I film from there. All right, this one here is our first garden bed, and this is the one that has our snow peas in it. And the snow peas are growing really, really well. You can see that, you know, we've got lots of amazing growth on these. But if you look really closely, you'll see there's not much in the way of flowers on these. There's a couple on the other side, but, you know, really there's not a lot. It's mainly been green growth that I've had on these. Actually, there's a few flowers in here starting to come through. But, you know, it's not like they normally go. Normally by this time of the year, I'm doing things like my fermented snow peas. And this year, I haven't even picked a snow pea yet. And I think that's my own fault, because what I did in this garden bed, and I'll come around into the garden bed now, is I did a lot of direct composting with the hubby in this one. And we added a lot of poop, and we added a lot of like really green organic matter. I even had the mulcher directly into this area here, and I mulched my grapevines when I pruned back my grapevines directly in here. And the soil is looking absolutely beautiful. Let's get my fingers out of the way. Sorry about that with the filming. Whoop. It's another one of my whoops. Yes, they happen in the garden too. Yeah, so the garden's looking wonderful, but what I think I did was I added too much beautiful organic matter, which has meant we've got all of this gorgeous green growth on our snow peas, but we're not getting the fruiting. We're getting lots of green growth instead. So I have been using the tips, because you can use the tips in your cooking, which is kind of cool. So just those bits there, you chuck those in salads and things, and they are absolutely delicious. In fact, you can even eat them as you're moving around the garden. But it just means that I haven't had that snow pea harvest. Hopefully I get some soon, but we'll see how we go. But what I can do today is I can plant in here, and obviously I need to do a bit of tidy up. Got a few things that are kind of popping up weeds wise. Actually, a lot of the weeds that you're seeing are things like parsnips here that are kind of just popping up from previous crops and the like, but I don't want to grow those in here this year. So what I'll do is I'll clear this out a little bit in terms of dealing with the weeds, and I'm actually going to plant in the area around the snow peas, but I'm going to keep the snow peas for today. I can definitely plant in these areas around the snow peas. All right, let's move over to the next bed. Actually, as I'm moving to the next bed, I should show you this. Yeah, I think on a lot of channels we often show some of the cool things that are going on the property, and sometimes there's disasters. And while we were away, this is actually one of the disasters that happened. I had the last of my pumpkins stored, and this one here started obviously getting quite super moldy. That seemed to have spread to all the other pumpkins as well, and yeah, by the time I got home it was a bit of a gross mess in my storage area. Normally I'm able to keep an eye on things, and every so often you do get a pumpkin that goes a little bit rotten in your storage, and you just kind of pull that one out so it doesn't kind of spread to the others. These spread. So what I might actually do is recover some of the seeds from in these and plant those as well, just to get my next pumpkins going, because there's really no reason that they shouldn't have some good seed in there, and it's probably in nice organic but stinky mash ready to go. So we might plant some of that today too. Actually, greenhouse wise, on the way to that next bed, we'll just have a bit of a peek in the greenhouse. What's kind of cool is all the sweet potatoes are starting to take off again. Yeah, again, they just stay in this bed year on year, and yeah, every year I pull out the sweet potatoes, pop back in some of the slips, and it's nice to see those taking off. The chilies and the capsicums haven't started taking off yet. In fact, a couple kind of struggled while we were away, so I'm actually not sure how we're going to go But the ones, as always, in the garden beds themselves are doing really well. And the ones over here in the pots, I think they'll, well, actually we can see that they're just starting to shoot off again now. So that's really cool to see. Just kind of here. I do have a few things in little pots that I need to plant out, including my quince. Look how big this is now. I'm so excited about that. That's the one that my son planted up from the fallen quince fruit, and I keep saying I'm going to plant this. It's definitely well and truly time to plant it. It's getting huge. And yeah, plenty of other little bits and pieces through here that I need to plant out as well. So a lot of these have been grown from cuttings, and yeah, but I really need to get them in the garden. Again, I'm just so behind this year. All right, let's go have a look at that other garden bed. So this is the second one. Now in this bed here, there's a lot of areas we're not going to be able to plant out yet. And that's because all this area here is my garlic crop. And the garlic stays in the ground until usually around Christmas here. This is something we've been kind of successively growing year on year. I think the last time I bought garlic was, jeepers, probably, when did I buy those bulbs? Probably about 7 years ago. And every year I just keep some of my garlic and put it in storage in that area that I showed you inside in the linen closet, wrapped in some newspaper. And then when it's time to plant, which is usually around March, April, I kind of plant it out then. So that there is an area I'm not going to be able to plant in today, but I will be able to plant here. So I've got this strip here where at the back I've got a few spring onions, so that's these ones here. I'm going to pull those out. I know they're going to seed, but as you saw inside, I have heaps and heaps of seed ready to go. So as beautiful as these are, I really don't need to let these continue and collect seed off these. Lots and lots of weeds in this area that I need to deal with. In fact, even in my area over here where my garlic is, you can probably see in between, there's heaps of weeds in there. And again, normally I just kind of move around my garden and I can pick that sort of stuff out. But because we weren't here, I am well and truly behind with that. So I'm hoping that doesn't affect my crop too much. I do need to spend a bit of time weeding. Next, we've got the ground cherries or Cape gooseberries, and that's the ones all along here. It is well, last year was the first time I grew them. I grew all those from seeds, and I grew a lot of them. So I've grown this whole strip here. And if I turn around, there's more in this bed here, more in the bed here, and more up the back. And I definitely do not need this many. So I'm trying to work out where I'm going to pull some of these out. And I think it might be the strip along the back here, because those ones there are a bit harder to get to because it's kind of between this Rio mesh that I use for trellis and kind of along the back here where I've got a bit of protection fencing just so that the animals don't come into the garden. And yeah, they're a wonderful prolific plant, really, really delicious, but I think I've just got too many at the moment. In fact, you can kind of see that there's lots of them dropping in on the ground at the moment and going to waste. And yeah, I definitely don't want that happening. So actually that one's kind of gross, so I might chuck that over the fence. There's probably a few good ones in here. Oh, I like that one there, that I can come out later and actually collect, and they'll be good to eat still. Yeah, that's still definitely nice and good. All right, over here you can kind of see Mr. Stackies with the flowers are really starting to take off now, so they're nice and pretty in the garden. I don't need to do anything with that today though. And over here we've got broad beans. I've got 2 lots of broad beans in the garden, some in this section here and some along the back as well. And at the moment I haven't started harvesting yet. We've got flowers that are absolutely beautiful that have kind of started taking off. And you know, if we have a bit of a delve in there, we've got some of the beans as well that are starting to form, but there's not a lot of those yet that have started getting to the point of being ready. And I think there's a few more on this side. Let's have a bit of a closer look here. the way that I kind of test to see if they're ready to pick is I actually give them a bit of a squeeze. So if you get right in there and you give them a squeeze, and if you start to feel that it's a bit solid, then you know the beans are just about ready. So that one there doesn't feel too bad. Whereas there'll be other ones like this one here. And as I'm pushing that, I'm not sure if you can see, maybe from this angle's better, but it's kind of hollow. So you wouldn't want to pick that yet because the broad beans aren't filled. But around the broad beans and around the ground cherries that I'm going to keep, there is a few areas I can plant. So I can plant through here, and I can plant through here as well. And I can also do a bit of planting in this bed here. So I will be keeping those broad beans at the back, but there is a zone kind of through the middle here that I'll be able to plant. And I've also got some herbs at the front. I think there was a bit of coriander in there, but maybe that's actually died off now. No, the coriander seems to have gone. I do have lots and lots of delicious looking parsley though, so I want to retain that because we use a lot of parsley. And we've also got in here a lot of celery that's kind of just self-seeded. And that's because we had our celery plant in this area. It went to seed and now the celeries are popping up. I have lots of celery seed inside in that box, but I don't think I'm going to bother planting any of that today because, as you can see, there's a plant here, there's kind of one coming up here, there's one over the back, just kind of here and there and there. These ones here kind of also self-seeded, but yeah, they seem to be going to flower really quick. So with these celeries, they get really bitter. I definitely don't want to leave those in, so I can pull those out to get a little bit more room. So essentially that's the areas that I've got to work with. And some of the things today I will plant directly in the ground in these zones. Other things I am going to plant in some little pots. And yeah, what we'll do is we'll put those in the greenhouse, and that'll be for things like the pumpkins, definitely want to get some tomatoes in because tomatoes are an absolute staple around here. And yeah, probably umming and ahhing about capsicums. So maybe let's go inside, let's have a look at those seeds, and let's choose the ones that we're going to plant today. Okay, we're back inside, so let's have a bit of a look at the seeds that we're going to plant. Spring onions. You can never have too many spring onions in the garden, so that's something I definitely want to do. Peas, broad beans, as you saw, we've got those outside at the moment, and in fact I'll probably harvest more seeds off those, but it's always good to have some in reserve from the previous year, so just kind of keep those in the cupboard for now. Basil, I definitely want to plant basil. We love, love, love having both tomatoes and basil in the kitchen. Not in the kitchen, well, in the kitchen from the garden every year in the summertime. They are just an absolute match made in heaven, and they make some really yummy things like the fermented bruschetta, so I definitely need to get some of those going. What else do we got? Looks like I'm going to get a bit of help. What else? Okay, I remember what's what. You should always mark your seeds, because as much as you think you're going to remember what things are, if you're anything like me, you probably won't, but thankfully I do have under there what that is. So that's celery, and as we saw outside, I have heaps of celery just self-seeding, so we're not going to need to plant any of that either. So I'm going to pop that over the side. It's kind of like a bit of a lucky dip here, isn't it? I open the bag and find what it is. Beans. Okay, these are an absolute definite. I must plant some beans. So this is beans again that we harvested last year. They are going to 100% get planted in the garden. Again, a bit of a staple for us. Want to give me a bit of space here, bud? All right, so that's more beans. Put that in the no pile. Whoops, hang on, I'm messing up my no's and my yeses. So yes here. Okay, here we have heaps of pumpkin seeds. So these are all pumpkin seeds that, again, I've stored. All I do is I just kind of clear off the gunk, pop them on paper towel, and you can see that I've got a few different varieties here. Hopefully in amongst these, I do have So that's the giant ones. I do want to plant some butternuts, so I'm hoping I've got some butternuts amongst these. So I don't think I've got any in these, but I do want to plant pumpkin, so I'll keep that there. But yeah, I really definitely want butternut. So that's some of my butternut from the previous year. I thought I kept some seed this year, but maybe I didn't. All right, let's put that here because I might need to plant some of that from the previous year. What's this one? My small light green pumpkins. Yep, so I've got 3 different kind of varieties of pumpkin there. And yeah, small light green pumpkin, giant green pumpkin. I'm not so good always with the varieties, but I know what they are out of my garden and what they're going to grow for me. So that's fine. Makes it interesting when you're swapping with people though. All right, what have I got here? These are some of my Amish paste tomatoes. So there's not a lot of seed in there. I definitely want to get some Amish paste going. So I'll pop that down here as well. And hopefully I've got a bit more in here on something else. That one looks a bit funky, doesn't it? What's that one? Okay. Tigerella tomatoes. I don't think I'm going to bother with those ones this year. What else have I got? Oh, Burnley Bounty tomatoes. So these ones are a real favourite for us, and I definitely want to get a bunch of those in. So again, you can kind of see all I've done is kind of put the seeds on the paper and dried them out on there to plant. So I want some of those. What else have we got? More Amish paste tomato. So yeah, Amish paste are absolutely fantastic for preserving because they're not a particularly watery tomato. Oh, that's 2021. So I'm starting to get down in my seeds now to some of the older ones. So I don't know how we'll go. What's that? A couple of years old. Might be okay. Let's add it to last year's ones and we'll see how we go. Now, what else have we got in here? More pumpkin seeds. Gosh, pumpkin seeds are one of those things that you can just store so readily. All right, I think I might put those to the side because I think we've got enough pumpkin seeds between our rotting tomatoes outside. Not rotting tomatoes, our rotting pumpkins outside and these ones. Parsnips, definitely don't need to plant any of those. They're from back in 2020. Oh. Lettuce seeds. Baby cos, yes, let's plant some of those. You can't not have greens in a summer garden. Well, not around here anyway, so we will definitely plant some of these baby cos. And what's this one? Kale. Kale is also a great staple to have in the garden. And what's in here? Looks like this is something I've collected myself. Basil, more basil. So this is basil, and that's the original pack of what I grew from. I think that's one of the Diggers Club packets. So that there, though, is some basil that I've then collected off of the plant. Obviously, I didn't clean the seed too well, so in amongst it is the seed, but there's also a bit of chaff in there as well. All right, so let's get that basil here too. Now, this one here has a few seeds that I didn't collect myself. Lebanese cucumbers. Got to have cucumbers for pickles, so that's definitely coming with us. Rocket, most definitely. There's a few things in here that I planted last year that I don't need to plant again. So I showed you when we did the bit of a wander around just before of those Cape gooseberries or ground cherries. Golden berries is another name for them as well. This is something I planted last year, and as we saw, definitely don't need to plant again. A few standard cucumbers, let's get those going too. I am getting to the stage where I probably need to do a bit of a clean out of my seeds, because every year I grab some and throw them in, but yeah, over time they start to build up, so I can probably get rid of a few of the older ones. Okay, this one I will take with us. This is some of our carrots. I think that's 2020. Actually surprised I didn't get any seed last year, but if we have a look in the bag there, that's kind of what your carrot seeds look like. You can get a bit of a clear view on that, because they're an interesting shaped little seed, those ones. They'll come with us out there. Again, got to have carrots in the garden. Oh, as we saw out there wasn't a lot of areas to plant in, but I'm definitely getting quite a few seeds that I want to take with us out there. Those ones we're not going to take. That I don't even know what it is. Let's pop that there. All right, now we're starting to get to a few interesting things that I got from our Australian homesteaders meet, where we got together and swapped a whole bunch of wonderful seeds. And I have some Queensland blue pumpkins here, so I'll put in a couple of those pumpkin seeds too. Put that here. And some flowers. I got some beautiful poppies and some dill as well. It'd be nice to get some dill in the garden to go with those cucumbers to make pickles. Now, these seeds here, I'm really excited about growing this year, because it's only been the last couple of years I've started putting flowers in the garden. But when we got together at our Aussie Homesteaders meet, 5 Acre Farm brought along these gorgeous little packs of some of their cosmos. So I got some white, purple and pink cosmos from Kat and Justin, and I'm excited to put those in the garden to get a bit of colour. And I've also got some more carrot seeds as well. So I think I'll take those out with the other carrot seeds, given they were a little bit old. Maybe we'll scatter both in there and just see how they go. So let's take those too. And I did have carrots last year. So, oh no, hang on, coriander. No, that's coriander from last year. So there's some of our coriander seeds. They also need to go in the garden, because love using coriander in Asian foods over the summer months. So that's going to come. And this one I'm really excited about planting this year. This is Rosella, and I have never ever grown that before, but I've been seeing lots of people grow it. It looks like it makes amazing jams. So I'm going to pop a few of these in as well. Oh my goodness, we didn't have a lot of areas to plant in out there, but it seems like I'm getting a really big lot of seeds to plant. So it's going to be fun seeing how we can fit all this in. In fact, I'm still even missing a few things. I haven't come across, oh gosh, that's more pumpkin seeds. These ones, Big Jim chilies. I'm going to plant these today, but I'm actually going to share how these go on another video, because this is part of a bit of a chili swap that I did with one of the subscribers. So if you know who you are, thank you very much, but we will cover that in another video. And yeah, I'm excited to see how these ones grow. So they are coming with us as well. What else? Oh my goodness. I'm spending so much time with you in here. I know we need to get outside. So let me see if I can find my, what did I still need? Zucchinis, and have a quick flick through these, and I'll see if I can find anything else, and then let's get outside. Now, because we've been away, and there's so much to do around this place at the moment, there's just a lot of cleanup to do. It's also kind of fire prep season, so we need to start getting ready for that as well. My plan was really not to do too much in the way of planting for this summer, just the essentials. But in saying that, with all those seeds we just went through and my definition of essentials, I've had to actually get a basket just to bring all the seeds that we need out here. And I did end up finding a couple more I want to plant, including some zinnias that I actually got from the Green Thumb artist at one of our local swap groups up here in the Dandenongs. I definitely want to plant those zinnias as well. I haven't grown those before and am looking forward to that. And once I got stuck into my Eden seeds, yeah, there was my eggplants, definitely zucchinis. I can't believe I nearly forgot beetroot. Got to plant beetroot, that's an essential as well. And I've got a few Diggers Clubs ones there, as well as my Eden seeds. So lots of things to plant. But to start off, what I need to do is start preparing the garden. And I do want to prepare all this area here, which just means getting rid of the weeds. And I'll probably just give it a little bit of a a top till as well, because there is lots of little teeny tiny seeds that have started germinating, and hopefully I can disturb the roots of those by doing that so they don't all come up. All right, I'm going to jump in and get this prepped, and then let's get some seeds in the ground. Weeding in here, I am trying to be a little bit careful of things like this guy here, which is a little self-seeded tomato plant. I often find the things that kind of naturalize in your garden are the ones that do the best. So yeah, I'm going to keep that one there, and yeah, just keep pulling out weeds, and then we'll start planting. Because I've got so many seeds to work with here, what I've tried to do is pop them in different piles just so that I can get a bit of order to this. These ones here, I'm going to need to put in the greenhouse to start off. They're all things like the tomatoes and pumpkins and chilies and things like that. Also, I'll start the flower seeds in pots too. So those I'm going to do in a moment. All of these ones over here are plants that are going to go direct into the ground. So I'm going to direct seed these ones. Normally I actually put cucumbers in pots in the greenhouse to start them off, but I might actually do some in pots and some direct seeds as well. Just given how late in the season it is, I actually think they'll take off fine directly in the garden. But all the things like, you know, your lettuces and definitely any of your root crops like your beetroots and carrots and stuff like that, they always go directly in the ground. And I do the same for a lot of the herbs as well. I put directly in the ground. So what I'm going to do next is lay these out in areas in the gardens now that I've kind of prepared them, just to try and get a bit of a laying out plan. And I know some people are really good at drawing up plans and things like that. I'm a little more fluid in the garden. I tend to just kind of work out what I want to plant, lay it out to see if it's actually going to fit, and then kind of maybe move things around a bit as well, just to make sure that I'm happy with kind of where things are going to be once they get going. So let's lay them out. Because this is so nutrient dense at the moment, I'm thinking I'm going to put my cucumbers in here. So I might do the Lebanese ones down the front a bit more. I'll put some of the Telegraph ones a bit further back. I might do a row of the spring onions right along the edge of the bed here. And maybe along the front, I'll do my basil along here. And kale, I'm going to take over to the back corner. In this garden area here, I'm thinking the beans, because I've got the trellis here. So I'm going to pop those here so we can run those along the trellis. And I'm thinking we'll have a row of our, or maybe even 2 rows of our beetroots. And our carrots can run along here. So it'll be carrots, beetroots, and then our beans. Last but not least, we're going to plant in a couple of little areas we have in this garden bed here. And in here, let's put our coriander. I'm going to put it on this side here because it gets the best sun. Next to that, let's put a bit of, actually let's put the rocket, and that means in this corner over here, hi, I can put our baby cos lettuce. And I do have a bit of lettuce still up on the deck as well growing, and that's in the veggie pod, but it's always nice to have a bit of extra lettuce for the summertime. Let's get them planted. I'm going to start with this garden bed here, and the first thing I'm going to do, given the type of seeds that I'm planting, is actually mulch it. And I've got some sugarcane mulch, so I'm going to lay those out and we'll get those seeds in the ground. So what I've been doing is clearing a bit of a trench in the mulch through here. And what I'm going to do now is use this tool here just to create a little bit of a channel to put our seeds in. So the ones we were going to put along here is spring onions, so it doesn't need to be particularly deep, but I do need to get a little bit of a trench there for our seeds to go in. Now, in terms of the tool that I'm using here, this is probably not something you're going to have access to because my family actually farmed for many, many years, and at the farm I've picked up implements that are probably quite old, and that I think was one of the ripping pieces off of the back of one of the tractors, and it just makes the absolute perfect tool for things like this in the garden. I love it for when I'm doing seed planting. I use it for doing the little trenches like this. I also use it for kind of planting individual seeds because you can kind of just make a little divot with it like that and plant my seed inside. But for this one, for the spring onions, I need a bit of a trench. So we'll get our trench all the way along. And then we've got our spring onion seeds. Let's see if I can open this up with one hand. Whoop. There we go. And inside, you can see that what I've done is I've got kind of the seed is still kind of in the chaff, but if I kind of rub it in my hands, it probably helps if I have it in my palm. Let's get that in focus. You see the little black seeds that are in there. There's a bit of an example of one there. That's actually the seeds. Now, it doesn't really matter that I've got the chaff going in here as well. All I'm going to do is just kind of grab that seed. Probably helps if I start from one end so I know that I've actually planted it all. And I'm just going to kind of rub that in my hands and just pop that in the trench all the way along, and then kind of just cover it up a little bit and then pat it down. And I'm just going to do that all the way along this trench. Over here, this is where we're going to plant our, what are we going to put here? The basil, I think it was? Yeah, basil. All right, so I'm just going to do the same thing here. Sorry about my shadow, guys. And plant the basil exactly the same way. In fact, then I'm going to go over and do the kale. So I won't keep you watching along with all of that. I'm just going to get these ones in the ground. So we've got our line of kale in here. Over here is our line of basil, and I did use some of the old seed and some of the new seed in there. And along the back here is that line of spring onion that we planted together. I am going to plant the cucumbers a little bit differently though. So all three that I just described, they were all planted in the same manner. But with these cucumbers, what I'm going to do is just kind of clear a little patch in my mulch. Actually, I might, still finding weeds. Might do this first one a little bit further back. And I'm just going to kind of dig in a hole like that. And then I'll grab one of the seeds out of this packet, which are interestingly coloured. And those, at least I can't lose those in the garden, I guess. And I'm just going to put one of these seeds in each one of these holes. That's probably a little bit too deep, probably about yay sort of deep. And then I'm going to cover that up, and then I'm going to recover the rest of these seeds and continue doing that throughout the rest of this garden bed. Ooh, that's bed number 1 done. Well, the cucumbers are in as well now. So let's move up to bed number 2. You might be wondering why I'm actually planting on my own today and why the rest of the family isn't stuck in here like we normally are together. But they're all off at PAX today, which is a bit of a gaming conference. So they've driven into Melbourne and they're doing that. I definitely did not want to do that. I prefer to be here gardening, so that's why I'm here doing this today. Alrighty, so what I'm going to do is, again, I need to get some mulch in here, and then we'll plant our row of carrots, our row of beetroot, and also our beans. Alright, when you're doing your mulching, just watch out for the dust. You know, they do say you should wear a mask and things like that when you're using these types of products. In fact, it probably says it somewhere on this bag. I've got crappy lungs, so I really should be looking after myself a bit better and staying out of the dust a bit. In fact, quite often I'll get other family members to help me out when I do this sort of stuff. But yeah, just do the right thing for your health. Alrighty, so that's done. And I do always mulch when I plant. The reason for that is I absolutely hate weeding. And this means a lot less weeding throughout the season. And yeah, it's also just good for your water retention throughout the season as well, just trying to keep a bit of moisture in the soil. Okay, so planting wise, let's get our carrots back over this side. Our beetroot's going to go over this side. And let's start getting some of these beans in the ground. All right, let's start. Oh, there's my tool. From this end here. And basically what I'm going to do is kind of similar to what I did with the cucumbers over there, is I'm just going to clear a little spot for each. And then I'm going to make a little hole, again, probably about yay sort of deep. Do want a little bit of depth with my beans because I don't want things snipping them out and digging them out straight away. And they can also handle a little bit more depth, so you know, probably up to somewhere between kind of the first and second knuckle. What's that? Maybe an inch, 3 centimeters, something like that. And I just pop it in, cover it up, and then just get on with the next one. That's all my beans in, and all I'm going to do now is do another row here and another row here for those beetroots and carrots. And I'm just going to plant those the same way as I did with the kale and the spring onions and the other plants you saw in the other bed. And that is another bed done. So beans are in, our beetroots are in, and I did put in a couple of different varieties. And with the carrots, they run along here. I only put in the 5 acre farm ones because Kat and Justin were nice and generous, and there was lots and lots of seeds in this little pack, so I didn't actually need my old 2020 carrot seeds after all. And now for my final bed, I've got some lettuce seeds to go in here and our rocket and coriander to go in here. So let's get those in the ground too. That is the third and the last of the beds done. So what I did is I kind of followed the circle of my flower garden in the middle to put the rocket. So that's all the rocket around there. And this area here has my coriander. The reason I've done it like that is I did want a bit of spare area in the middle so that I could put things like the zucchini or well, probably not tomatoes because I've got another spot in mind for tomatoes, but some of those things that I'm about to plant up into seeds, once they germinate, I actually need somewhere to put them. So that little spare area in the middle will be good for that. And over here, I've got 2 lines of the cos lettuce. And again, a bit more of a spare area just through here for planting something else later. So I do need to plant all those seedling pots. Let's go do that now. So the first thing I'm doing is just putting a bit of seed raising mix in this tray. And that's because I'm going to put the flowers in this tray. So I've got the zinnias. I've also got some poppies and calendula seeds and also the cosmos. I am going to try and plant a lot of that direct in the ground somewhere. I'm going to do that at a later time, but what I want to do is just make sure I get some seeds going of each. So I'm going to plant some of those in here. Now, you of course don't need to use like seed and cutting mix because we are short on time. Like I'm just using whatever kind of shortcuts I can do at the moment to get everything in the ground that I want to get in the ground. And that's one of the shortcuts that I'm doing, but you can of course kind of use your own material from your compost. If you do that, it's a good idea just to kind of sieve out to get some of the big bits out though. Because those big bits can particularly affect your smaller seeds from growing, and some of these are really small seeds, so Sometimes with some of these super duper small seeds, like this one's the pink poppy, you can just kind of sprinkle it on the surface and that can be enough. But yeah, I've obviously done trenches, maybe they're a little deep. We'll just sprinkle those in and then cover them up. I'm going to do that with each one of these seeds here. Didn't plant the cosmos. I'm going to get another bunch of punnets to kind of put those in, and that's because I think I was starting to overplant this a little bit. I can be known to overplant things, but yeah, probably too much even for me in this little one here. So let me go get some more punnets to plant in. I'm going to use these little recycled containers that I've used a couple of times actually, but I can't remember exactly what I've got in them, but it was like from some fruit and veg thing and I just kept them. The pretty nifty thing is when you close it up, it's like this little extra greenhouse that I can put in the greenhouse and it keeps moisture in. So all I'm going to do, put some dirt in those and then we'll plant the cosmos. Oh, isn't that sweet? Thanks, cat. Okay, these are the white ones. I might do more of the white. So I'm going to do the 2 rows with the white ones. And lots of seeds left. So I can definitely get some directly in the garden. And then in this one I'm going to do a row of the purples. And also a row of the pinks. So these are the pink ones. Yep. And last but not least, our purples. I'm looking forward to these in the garden. The reason I kind of mentioned before that I haven't grown a lot of these flowers is because for many, many years in the garden, I just didn't grow flowers. I kind of thought that flowers were kind of something that took up space from valuable food growing. But over the last couple of years, I've kind of grown to love having some flowers in the garden. Kind of started off with a lot of the edible sort of flowers, like the nasturtiums you kind of see around us. And what else have I got? The nasturtiums and, the violas. Also, marigolds, of course, marigolds too. And then last year I started with the dahlias and gladioli and things like that, and I really liked kind of the colour that they brought to the garden. And this year, from all the wonderful swaps from the Australian homesteaders community and my swap group, the Dandenong Collective up here, I am really now going full force into flower growing this year. That is, of course, if all of these grow. So similar to what I did before when I was doing the planting in the garden, what I've done is I've laid everything out so that I can make sure that I've got enough seedling trays to grow all the things that I want to grow. So what I'm going to do is put some pumpkins in these ones. I'll do zucchini and Lebanese cucumber in these. I'll do a row of Big Jim chilies, some Rosella, eggplants, and then a whole bunch of tomatoes in these ones here. So this year I'm being a bit slack again because of that limitation of time, and I'm just using some plastic pots that I have in my potting shed. Because I'm so late, I'm not going to be swapping any seedlings with people like I often do. So normally I do like my toilet paper pots as well, because then I'm not giving away pots when I'm kind of gifting seedlings, but I just don't have time to do that this year. All of these pots though, they're all kind of recycled. They largely came from our Indigenous local nursery when we did a lot of planting on our property of Indigenous plants, and that's where all these ones came from. And then there's others here that have just come from, you know, like when we've bought plants at nurseries and things like that as well. That's our last one filled. Okay, which means it's now time for planting. And I might start off with the tomato seeds. There we go, last one. So that's all of our seeds planted. Now, I normally would put some labels on all of these, but again, short on time today. So I'm probably going to be one of the ones going back to this video to remember exactly what I planted in each of these. So just for my sanity at a later time, Burnley Bounties on the outside. That was the one from the packet. That was one from the seeds that I recovered myself. And in the middle, I've got 2 lines of the Amish paste, and everything else kind of was as I laid it out at the start. Now, there is one more thing I want to do, kind of over here, and that's with these stinky pumpkins. Not stick my hands in there, but I do want to recover a little bit of seed to plant in an area that I have where I actually tried to do this, but I think all my seeds got eaten with a previous pumpkin that had got a bit rotty. So essentially all I'm going to do is grab some gross, and I will say this smells really lovely, gross, but all kind of fertilized and soaked seed. And I'm going to plant that up here in this area here. So I'm just going to dig into the ground a bit and then get some of those seeds in there without touching them too much. There's a heap of them, so hopefully I'm just doing it as loose as I'm doing it today to do it really quick. Some of it will actually grow. Whew, alrighty, time to water. Now, for those of you keen of hearing, while I'm watering, I probably should mention that you've probably been hearing an interesting whining sound in the background at times in this video. Now, I'm not going to give it away, but there will be an upcoming video where I'll explain a little bit more about all of that whining. But for those of you with that keen hearing, you may have already have worked it out. And if you haven't, and you go back, you might actually be able to work it out. If not, stay tuned for that later video. All right, I reckon this is a good place to kind of wrap this video. Yeah, we've got all of our seedlings are planted, the seeds in the ground are planted, and hopefully soon I'll be able to share some little updates with you. I'll probably put a few on the Facebook page, and yeah, I'll do a bit of an update video once we get into summer as well on how it's all gone. So thanks a bunch for sticking with me today, because I know it was probably a bit of a marathon video. It was definitely a bit of a marathon planting session by myself as well today. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed hanging out with me in the garden. And thanks for joining, and catch you later. Alrighty. There we go. All done. Okay, now I'm really done.